All right, the time is 9 a.m. and I'm calling this meeting to order. Good morning, I'm Mark McLeany with the Office of Planning and Environmental Review. I'll be serving as today's hearing officer. Stephanie Townsend will be serving as the ZA secretary and timekeeper. This is the Sacramento County Zoning Administrator hearing for May 5th, 2021, and this hearing is being recorded. I will now read the announcement. In compliance with directives of the county, state, and Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, this meeting is live streamed and closed to the public. Temporary procedures are subject to change pursuant to guidelines related to social distancing and minimizing person-to-person contact. To make a verbal comment at today's meeting, dial 916-875-2500 and follow the prompts to be placed in the queue for a specific agenda item or off-agenda matter. When I open the public comment for a specific agenda item or off-agenda matter, you will be transferred from the queue into the meeting to make a verbal comment. Written comments are always accepted. Send your email comment to boardclerk@saccounty.net. Your comment will be routed to the board and filed in the record. To appeal a decision, the decision made here may be appealed within 10 days to the Board of Zoning Appeals, and the fee is $3,935. And then please follow meeting procedures and best practices if you are a speaker. Speak from a handset or headset. Mute devices when not speaking to minimize background noise. Announce your name when speaking on an agenda item, so all the participants and listeners are aware who has the floor. So, Stephanie, you can go ahead and administer the oath.
Okay. And for the applicants, can you please raise your right hand, and the appropriate response is I do. Do you swear that the testimony you are about to give is the truth, so help you God? If you do not swear, do you so affirm? And I just unmuted the applicants.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, that's done. You can call the first item.
Are you new? Oh, that's smart.
Item 1 is to approve the action summary from the April 21st, 2021 meeting.
All right, I hereby approve the action summary for April 21st, 2021. The next item.
Item 2, Arden at Markston Starbucks, located at 2345 Arden Way in the Arden community. Request for a conditional use permit and design review. Environmental dock is exempt.
Okay.
Good morning. This is David Ulrey, the planner for the Arden at Markston Starbucks project. Next slide, please. So the project is located at the northeastern corner of the intersection of Arden Way and Markston Road, and the request is for a conditional use permit for a drive-through with amplified sound within 300 feet of a residential zoning district, as well as a design review. Next slide, please. So the project is currently developed with a 8,280-foot vacant commercial building constructed in 1974. If you're familiar with the site, this is the former location of the Aaron Brothers retail. Next slide, please. So here we have the landscape plan and site plan. It's also important to note that the signage has been reviewed for conformance with the Arden Arcade Special Sign District, and it meets all requirements. Next slide, please. Here we have the 3D perspectives of the proposed cafe. It's modern in nature. Next slide, please. And so here we have the south and western elevations. The outdoor patio, it has been brought up to the Arden frontage. Originally, it was proposed to be behind the building. So it's been made more prominent for SIPTED considerations and also to focus eyes on the street. Next slide, please. And here we have the north and east elevations. Next slide, please. And here are the colors and materials. Next slide, please. So the final decision body for this item is the zoning administrator. The project has been reviewed for conformance with the general plan and is consistent with the noise standards outlined in the general plan. It also meets all zoning code development standards and has been reviewed by the DRAC and CPAC with a recommendation of approval. Public notice was sent out to property owners and residents within 500 feet of the subject property, and we did receive a comment letter from the Arden Town Apartments Management who surveyed their residents, and they had 12 residents in support and 3 against. Next slide, please. And so with that, staff recommends that the zoning administrator recognize the exempt status of the request under section 15303 class 3 and approve the conditional use permit subject to the findings and conditions listed in attachment 2 and find the project in substantial compliance with the countywide design guidelines subject to findings and conditions in attachment. And that concludes my presentation. The applicant is in attendance and I can answer any questions.
All right. Hey, thanks, David. This is Mark. That was a very good presentation. Just one question that I think you already answered, but the apartment complex is to the north, right?
Yeah, so there's actually residential immediately to the north, within 300 feet to the east, and then also single family residential RD5 across Arden to the south.
Okay. Well, thank you. So, Stephanie, do we have public comments? I mean, beyond the email received with the 12 that we got earlier, is there additional public comments for this?
We do not have any further written public comments, and then nobody waiting on the line.
Okay, thanks. And then to the applicant, so you've read the conditions of approval and are comfortable with them, and do you have anything to add?
I don't have anything to add now.
Okay, and you've are comfortable with the conditions of approval?
I believe we are.
I didn't hear you. I'm sorry.
We're comfortable with the condition of approval, and we'll be able to deliver whatever is necessary.
Okay. Well, yeah. So we'll close the public comments. And so I've read the staff report. The project is consistent with the community plan and the zoning code. The landscaping improvements look really good. From nothing to what will be there, it will be a huge improvement. And it's consistent with the noise standards. The CPAC also recommended approval. The project is compliant with the county design review guidelines. I recognize the project is exempt from CEQA and the findings are adequate. I hereby approve the use permit. There's a 10-day appeal. After the 10 days elapse, we'll send out the use permit to you through the mail. And thank you very much. We can go to the next item.
Thank you.
Item number 3 is Auburn Boulevard Starbucks, located at 5480 Auburn Boulevard in the Carmichael Old Foothill Farms community. The request is for a special development permit and design review. Environmental dock is exempt.
Good morning, Zoning Administrator Mark McLeany. I'll be presenting on item number 2, which is an Auburn Boulevard Starbucks special development permit. Next slide. The project site is located at 5480 Auburn Boulevard at the intersection of Auburn Boulevard and Garfield Avenue and is in the Carmichael Old Foothill Farms community. The project requests a special development permit to allow for the proposed trash enclosure at a Starbucks to deviate from the minimum setback from a public street. The project also includes a design review to determine compliance with countywide design guidelines. Next slide. The site is 0.61 acres and is currently vacant in the light commercial zoning district. It's surrounded by other commercial properties as well. There is a smaller parcel, I believe, like maybe 0.1 acres, that is adjacent to the subject site at the corner of Auburn Boulevard and Garfield Avenue. The site has separate ownership and it is not part of the project request, but it is exactly at the corner and at the intersection of Auburn and Garfield. Next slide. The project request is for a special development permit. Excuse me? Okay. The project requests a special development permit to allow the trash enclosure at the proposed Starbucks with a drive-through to deviate from the minimum setback. The trash enclosure will be 13.6 feet away from the public right-of-way on Garfield. The required setback would be 31 feet. The development on the site will include the construction of a one-story, 2,200 square foot Starbucks building with a single lane drive-through. Next slide. Here is a aerial of the site plan for the proposed Starbucks. As mentioned, the drive-through will be single lane, and there is going to be the appropriate amount of parking spaces allocated based off of the square footage of the building. I do want to note that there has been some discussion with the Department of Transportation about an easement that's on the site to allow for the widening of Auburn Boulevard in the future. That easement is to accommodate a sidewalk and a landscape strip. Planning has talked with DOT and they've mentioned that the parking that's going to be within that easement is acceptable and that they don't want to prevent the allotment for parking spaces at this time. If there was any buildings to be constructed within that easement, then that would have been an issue, but right now would it just be parking along Auburn Boulevard, DOT is acceptable to the current city plan. Next slide. Here are the elevations that have been reviewed by the Design Review Advisory Committee to allow for the one-story Auburn Boulevard Starbucks. The Design Review Advisory Committee met and they determined that the project is compliant with the countywide design guidelines. Next slide. Here's the landscape plan. The landscape plan reflects the appropriate amount of landscaping that is required by the zoning code. They were requesting to eliminate the street trees along Garfield Avenue, but planning worked with the applicant team to get the required street trees along Auburn and Garfield, and the landscaping has been reviewed by Mike Wall, landscape architect. Slide. As mentioned previously, the draft met on September 24th, and they reviewed the plans and found it compliant with the countywide design guidelines. The Carmichael CPAC also reviewed the project in December, and they recommended approval of the proposed project with no conditions added to the entitlement request. Next slide. Staff recommendation to the ZA today is to recognize the exempt status of the request under the applicable section of CEQA, approve the special development permit, and find the project in compliance with the countywide design guidelines, subject to the findings and conditions that are listed within attachment 2 of the staff report. And that concludes staff presentation. Thank you.
Thanks, Desiree. That was a nice presentation. Just one question. I see the signs. That monument sign was just reviewed through design review, so it's part of this special development permit. Is that their signage got design review as well?
Yeah.
Cool. Okay. Yeah, so no questions with you. And then, so Stephanie, do we have any public comments or anybody in the queue?
We do not have any public comment.
Okay, we'll close public comment. And then to the applicant, check to see if you're comfortable with the conditions of approval and have anything to add.
We're just waiting for formal written comments from DOT.
I didn't understand. I'm sorry. Could you just repeat that, please?
Oh, we haven't received any comments from DOT in writing.
I heard something about DOT in writing. I'm real sorry. I just have a hard time hearing you.
We don't have comments from Department of Transportation.
So they had the Department of Transportation's conditions have been incorporated into the findings and conditions document. That outstanding question about whether the parking can occur within the easement, I believe is what the applicant is referring to, and they don't have anything from DOT in writing saying that DOT has allowed for the parking. However, we have taken this project to initial review and condition review, and the parking has been there while DOT has reviewed it. And a part of their review process is to make sure that there's nothing that would be unacceptable to occur within the easement. So the fact that they have conditioned the project, knowing that the parking is going to be there, can give us some comfort and confirmation that the parking can occur within that easement. But if you're looking for an email or something from DOT staff, I think that can occur after the entitlement process.
Okay, thank you for that. The applicant team comfortable with that? Seems relatively reasonable, but
Yeah, that's fine.
okay. Okay, well, thanks. So this was an interesting ZA hearing where I had two Starbucks with almost essentially the same control numbers. It was a little bit hard to get these things in my head. But this one, for the special development permit for the trash enclosure, the landscaping will improve the site and also kind of camouflage the trash enclosure. And the project is consistent with the general plan policies and community plan policies. It complies with the zoning code with the exception of the setback for the trash enclosure. The CPAC also recommended approval. The project is compliant with the county design review guidelines. I recognize the exempt status for CEQA and the findings are adequate. I hereby approve the special development permit. Once again, there's a 10-day appeal. After the 10 days elapse, we will mail out the special development permit to you. Thank you. And we could go on to the next item, which I think is staff update.
Yeah, good morning, Zoning Administrator McElhaney. This is Chris Bahuli, Principal Planner. We do not have a staff update this morning.
Okay, thank you very much. And then the next item will zoning officers' comments. I don't have any comments this morning. And then we'll go to the next item, which would be public comments. So see if Stephanie has any public comments for us.
We do not have any public comments.
Okay, well, that makes it easy. We can go ahead and adjourn, and the appeal filing deadline for projects heard today is Monday, May 17th, 2021 by 5 p.m. The next zoning administrators hearing is May 19th, 2021. And that concludes the meeting for today. Thank you very much.